Alright, this is going to be a video about mixing paint on your palette. Then I'll make a separate video about putting the paint up here on the canvas. First of all, for the palette itself, this palette is in my studio permanently, and it's made out of glass that I have taped to a piece of foam core so that it's white underneath. And this is just years of accumulated paint around the edges where I've taped it to taped the glass to the board underneath. But the glass is really good for painting on because it's really easy to clean up. You can just use a one-edge razor blade and just clean all the paint off. Wipe it off on, these are my paper towels, wipe it off on a paper towel. But for you all, what I'm recommending you get, you probably don't want to do this, is just a pad of palette paper. It's like a pad of paper, only it's palette paper. It's like wax paper. It resists the paint a little bit, and then when you're done painting for the day, you just tear it off the pad and throw it away. Save the paint. If there's enough paint to bother to save it, save that. So as far as arranging your colors on the palette, there's the most convenient way to do it, the way most people do it. You normally squeeze a white up in the corner. A big, nice generous squeeze of white. You're going to use more white than any other paint. I have a long side and a short side. You usually would put your warm colors on one side and your cool colors on the other. Because I have several warm colors and really only one cool color, I'm going to put the warm colors along this side. And you normally start with the lightest color, which is this yellow, cadmium yellow. I'm squeezing very small amounts out here for this demo. You would probably, if I was actually doing a painting with this, I would squeeze out more. Actually, I will be doing a painting with this. I'll be doing a demo painting with this. So that's the yellow. I'll squeeze out some of my red. Sometimes these caps are really hard to open. They get really stuck. And for that I have a pair of pliers like this here in the studio, and that opens them right up. Red, as they get darker, well, I put the yellow ochre next, or raw sienna, either one. The yellow ochre and raw sienna, similar, sort of a mustard yellow color. Burnt sienna next, and then the darkest color at the end, which is raw umber. The sienna colors, the sienna and umber both come in two colors: raw sienna and burnt sienna, and raw umber and burnt umber. And then the blue I'm really recommending that you get is this ultramarine blue. I put that here. If you have another blue, like sometimes cobalt blue, but that's quite similar to ultramarine. Sometimes if you have some like a cerulean blue, I'll put some cerulean blue here. Optional color. So if you arrange your palette like this, then you sort of always know where your colors are. You don't have to waste your time finding your color. You just go to it right away and find it. So I find it easier to arrange my palette that way. I usually have a little bit of oil. This is safflower oil that I bought at the art store. It's the same stuff that you could buy at the grocery store. You cook with this stuff, so it's certainly not toxic. You literally eat it when you're cooking like a stir fry or something. The art supply companies say that their safflower oil is different than the safflower oil you buy at the store. It's more refined and more pure. That may be, I don't know. It may just be an excuse to charge you more for it, for the same thing. I don't know. So I usually have a little bit of safflower oil there. And then I have, let me move this up a little bit. And then I have my silicoid tank, a cleaning tank right here. So that I have, these are my two different ways of thinning my paint, here and here, to make the paint flow a little better. I keep this closed just because, sort of closed but loose like that while I'm painting, just because I don't want the fumes coming out while I'm painting. And then when I need it, I just lift the lid, dip in, and go like that and close it again. You know, I've just gotten so used to that it's not even inconvenient to just lift the lid and get some paint out of it. Brushes. Sometimes, most of the times, I think probably I use my palette knife for mixing paints, but you can also do it with a brush. Sometimes once I get into the painting, I just skip the palette knife and just start using the brush. But basically almost all colors are going to have some white in them. Almost any color you mix is going to have some white in it. I don't know, let's mix a green, or let's mix a green. Obviously everybody knows green is made out of yellow and blue. So there's my cadmium yellow and my ultramarine blue. Makes a green. Probably everybody in this class who's an artist knows about mixing colors. You know, if you want to make that green a little bit yellower. If you want to make it a lot duller than that, you really want to dull it down a little bit, make it much more neutral, add a touch of red. So if you feel like that is sort of too pasty, too thick, you take a little bit of this safflower oil here, put it in, makes it thinner. This Gamsol is much thinner, it's more like water. This is more like oil in thickness, and this is more like water, so they thin it in different amounts. It really just depends on what you like. And then use the brush and start painting. But sometimes as you're painting, you just want to change this a little bit, change this color. You know, I think this paint color needs to be just a little redder or something. And I just I don't even bother to go back to the palette knife. I just can evolve the color this way. So I generally will have like a pile of paint here that the color is sort of evolving. This paint color sort of evolves as I use it. I use this for a while and then I decide it needs to be a little yellower and maybe a little lighter. Do that, and so this pile here is sort of evolving. Pretty soon I have 4 or 5 piles like this. A blue pile, a red pile, or something that are sort of evolving as they go. So, and then sometimes the palette gets filled up, and I don't have any more room to do anything, and I just use my palette knife and kind of scrape that off a little bit, move it over here. If I feel like there's enough paint to bother to save it, I'll sort of put it over here in a pile and possibly use it later if there's enough. It doesn't have to be that clean, and usually between colors I'll just sort of wipe the brush off. I don't normally clean the brush throughout the painting. I'll just kind of wipe it off. Let's say I want to start using red instead. I'll probably just start, if you wipe it off, it doesn't get entirely clean, but clean enough to start a new color. So I generally don't use a lot of different brushes during a painting, just a few, because I keep sort of changing it. I just keep rubbing off the color and switching to a new color. But I'll have 3 or 4 brushes going. When I started, when I was young, I used to feel like I wanted to save this color, maybe this brush for red, and a different brush for all the blues, and a different brush for like the light blues or something. And so I would find myself pretty soon having all these brushes in my other hand like this, and then painting with this one, and it just got to be confusing and awkward, and I just finally realized that it's better just to use a few brushes. You know, for a painting, I'll probably use this brush and this brush here, maybe there's possibly this brush and then maybe a small one. And I'll probably get a whole painting out of just these brushes here. So that's what that is. All right, so I'll make a second demo painting about actually, I mean a second demo video about actually putting the paint on the canvas.